What's going on, Packers fans? Aaron and Tazim are here, ready to talk some football. Tazim, hope you had a good weekend. We are a little over a week away from the NFL draft. I don't know about you, but I think and I wish they could, bump up the draft just a little bit. I understand we all love talking about all these prospects and going over mock drafts and what have you, but man, it really starts to drag on about 2 weeks out from the draft.
I think we are absolutely kind of trying to fill with as much as we can, I guess, discuss and break down, and
Right.
it becomes paralysis by analysis. It's too much time.
Yeah.
Let's get to some football. Let's get to actually having them in OTAs and minicamp, and we can evaluate what they look like in the NFL. Because that's actually the key to probably all of our conversations when we start talking about these prospects. Man, there are dudes who could be great in college. They look like ass in the NFL.
It's true. It's true, though, right?
Yeah.
And it's the number one thing.
And vice versa,
I talk about it all the time. Exactly. It's about projecting, right? It's about where is this guy going to fit in team-wise, scheme-wise, teammates, coaches, what he's being asked to do in that program is exponentially more important than what he did in college.
There's so many elements to it. There's so many things that we don't even get to see and diagnose. So we're guessing now. We're doing it from a place of information, at least the information we have. So it's an informed guess for those of us who know what we're talking about. Now, obviously, we also know that people who are just
there's a few who don't.
Yeah, there are folks throwing stuff against the wall too. But for the most part, when we're having our conversations, we're doing it based upon information we are able to derive, and we still don't have it all. We probably, I would say we probably have about 60% of the information.
Yeah, that sounds about fair. You mentioned, can't wait to get these guys in the door and start the OTAs, the mini camps, etc. And that will all happen, obviously, post-draft. But today, as we're talking, is the beginning of the off-season program in Green Bay. And I think there's 23 other teams that also start their off-season work today, April 15th. I know it was very different when you were in the league as far as the off-season schedule, right? Like the PA, the union, has done a lot of work to try and scale back how much these guys are in the building in the offseason comparative to, quote, back in the day. But do you think it's valuable to be in the building and around the team and around your teammates as much as they are? Or do you think that, these guys, we've talked about it, they do so much work outside the building on their own working out? What's the balance there? Do you think it's valuable to have them in the door this early, or do you think that the PA should maybe push for more time away?
I believe this is very valuable when it comes to the game, when it comes to building a team, developing chemistry, and becoming what it is that you want to become in order to, win championships. It's something that you're not going to be able to just show up in July, or in some cases, I think the earlier teams. No, it's still July though.
Late July usually.
Like you're gonna get a little earlier time for the ones who played the Hall of Fame.
The Hall of Fame game, yeah.
But in terms of the things that are, it's almost you can say the intangibles, but they are really tangible items as well. When you're in OTAs and you're developing timing and you're developing chemistry and you're able to actually get with a quarterback that you will be receiving the ball from, and he's actually spending time with the receivers who he will be playing with on, Sundays, Mondays, Saturdays. Yeah, we got
Fridays, Wednesdays,
Fridays.
Any day.
Yeah, we got a number of days now in terms of the way this thing is going. But that's something, to me, to answer your question though, there is kind of a delicate balance to it, in terms of where it may become almost too much. And I think I remember sharing with you as it relates to, and it may have been in our last conversation when we're talking about you're looking for a particular formula as it relates to getting your team to the place where it peaks. So it's a bit of a steady progression. You don't want to start out too high, right? And you don't want to start out too high too early. But you want to get to that place somewhere in the season where you can hold it long enough to win the ultimate prize, which is to hold up the Lombardi at the end. So when you look at the offseason, I think it kind of comes to how you structure what it is that you're doing during those OTAs and mini camps, and how much hard, I guess, work is it to the point where the guys get burnt out? How much information is it to the point where the guys may get burnt out? And then how much of it is you understanding that these guys are able to build chemistry and invest time. I was about to say spend time, invest time, with each other and become a team. Because to me, the most important part of the offseason is that, because it's such a business. And when you look at the NFL is something where I think a lot of the guys, particularly the higher level guys who never been cut, they are, quite frankly, they're kind of in la la land as it relates to the business of the NFL.
Right.
And the reason I'm telling you that is because, okay, so they've been told they're all that basically their whole lives, right? And so whether it's pee-wee, high school, college, you the top dog, right? You get to the NFL, you still kind of the top dog. You came in as a first rounder. You've never been cut. You are, you're on a team, and you kind of think it's the same team you had in college, same team you had in high school, and it's not. Like, literally, these are grown men who, during this time, what do you have, 90 of them? You have 90, I think, grown men, and in some cases, you may have a few more until a particular date where you have to cut down to the 90. But, I mean, you have all these guys who are dreaming big, some of them who have no chance in hell to actually make the team, and they think they are on that team. I mean, it's an interesting thing, the off season. So you got all the way from the guy who you already know is literally just going to be there in the off season program, to camp bodies, to Hall of Famers. I mean, all of those people are there, right? And so it's like, okay, how much time are the ones who really have no chance whatsoever? And then like you'll see one or two of them, right? They kind of sneak in, they do something. And then it's like
almost every year.
Didn't know he was gonna make it. And so, but it's all of those bodies are there, and the guys at the top, they know they're on the team, right? This is a team, and they already, if you've been there 3 or 4 years, you know that this guy, he may not even be here tomorrow.
Right.
That dude's coming in every week. So again, if you think about it, Aaron, that off season, there's so many things to put into consideration as to what is the most important part of this. That's going to, when we get to that 53, or it's probably about 65, 68 players, because
with the practice squad now.
I'm not even talking about just the practice squad though, because they're kind of a higher level group of practice squad guys.
Right.
And then there are some guys that are probably going to end up on into reserve. There's some, and that'll be coming in and on and off is what I mean.
Right.
So there are groups of guys there who kind of are in different types of modes. And those are the guys who you really need to be investing in that time in and building the chemistry and the team. And so, it's a delicate balance, I guess. I say it, all of that to say, in terms of getting to what you need to do to actually have it be meaningful in terms of that time that you're investing in the offseason.
I'm glad you brought that up as far as like the really disparate nature of the roster, as far as security, guys who know I'm going to be there regardless, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think every summer we seem to play this tune on Twitter anyway, where some fans see guys skipping portions of the offseason work, or, basically coming in for a stretch and then leaving for a bit, etc., in a way that really wasn't very commonplace even 10 years ago, right? The
Mm-hmm.
Packers have done such a good job of putting in bonus money into these guys' contracts, ensuring that they would be there in the offseason in Green Bay. That has kind of, I don't want to say gone by the wayside because it's still prevalent, but you do see guys like Jair Alexander. He has skipped a good part of the voluntary stuff in the offseason, and the offseason workout stuff is voluntary, right? Before you get to the mandatory mini camp.
Right.
What do you make of that in the locker room? Like, is it, to your point, is it an opportunity if you're a young guy? Are you resentful because your teammate's not there? Like, how do you look at that?
It does. It opens the window to reps that some guys wouldn't have gotten. And it makes you discover a Carrington Valentine, because he absolutely got way more reps than he would have gotten had Jair been present the whole offseason. That's just a fact. And in getting those reps, he was actually going up against NFL caliber wide receivers, as we found out. Now, didn't necessarily know. We knew we had two that were sporadically good as rookies, but everybody else,
big unknowns. Big unknowns.
No idea, right? So even the two sophomores still had more to prove. So it was like, okay, how good are they really? And the young guys we didn't know anything about. Now, in hindsight, the work this guy was getting that whole time was against primarily legitimate NFL talent. And it showed when he actually got to go up in legitimate NFL games. And look, I'm going to tell you, I used to be what do you call it? Training camp superstar. I used to be a training camp superstar because I had to do I couldn't miss a practice. And we actually took pride in that. We can't miss a practice. And I mean, the superstars, they would miss a practice if they broke a nail. I mean, so we couldn't miss a practice, period. And of course, I would have to play all the games. Matter of fact, I remember to this day a game in Philadelphia where our coach, literally, they saw us limping around, and I say us. There was a linebacker by the name of Ray Farmer, and then myself. We both played every snap of defense and special teams in the fourth preseason game.
Oh wow!
And the only, I say every snap. The only one way that he actually exceeded me was he was also on field goal, and I was not. He was a wing on field goal, and I was not. Right. So he ended up, I think, with 116 snaps.
Jesus. Wow.
I had 110, and when I tell you, we were, I mean, all we could do is we just dropped at the end. We just dropped. But are the guys resentful? I think they realize this is my chance. This is my chance. Now, there are the guys who are the ones who are on the team who are like, "Bro, come on, there's some work we need to do," Mm-hmm. So, and I'm talking about, the middle roster, the starter guys who they just are not superstars. They're not making, $20 or $30 million a year, but they are going to be there and they are doing well in the NFL, and they feel like, hey man, we can build something here. So they might have a little something to say with the guys who don't necessarily show up. But again, it goes back to how varying the positions are on the roster in terms of how they feel about, what's happening with offseason.
I think it's fascinating to kind of watch a team develop, throughout when they first arrive in the off season through the, the stuff you kind of glean from running around in shorts and helmets, which isn't a lot, obviously, especially from the outside looking in. We don't have access to a lot of what they're doing. But then when the little summer break happens and they get back for training camp, it's always interesting to me to kind of track some of the progress that guys in shorts make when the pads come on. It's always that question of, okay, is he just going to be a off-season wonder? I think a perfect example of a guy who continued doing what he was doing initially while turning heads when they weren't in pads and when the pads came on is Malik Heath. Last season, you remember in the offseason, he was very much kind of talked about turning heads. And I remember saying, well, just that doesn't mean a whole lot. You got to do it when the pads come on. And then he did it when the pads came on. And then I remember saying, well, that's great, but he's got to do it when the preseason games start. And then he did it in the preseason games. Is that something that guys take notice of as far as, okay, hey, so-and-so is making some plays in practice. Okay, but let's see if he keeps it up. Or is it, man, he's making those plays. Let's keep feeding him. Let's see if he can keep going. Is it more of a, an opportunity to lift someone up, or is because it's so competitive? Is it, well, I got to make sure I'm making plays, try and not one up him, but make sure my roster spot is secure.
Well, that's still going to depend on where you are on the roster. I mean, that's the business part of it, Aaron, that I'm telling you that the top tier roster guys they don't have to understand, quite frankly.
Right.
They don't. And that's okay, if you are a guy who is really battling for a roster spot, there's a fine line between you helping the guy take your job.
Right.
I mean, if you think about it, okay, you're a grown man attempting to make a living, and if you've been in the league a while and you're still a marginal guy, then at that point you may have a family, wife, kids, home, all kinds of things going on in terms of responsibilities. And on this team, you're being asked to basically mentor a guy who you can see, okay, the Malik Heaths. Let's say we had, a Sammy Watkins on the roster this past training camp. Look, I don't know Sammy Watkins personally, but I'm going to tell you right now, if Sammy would have saw Malik Heath in training, and matter of fact, I'll tell you where we see it. We'll see it in OTA. We'll see it in stuff that you all don't get to see. We'll see that in OTAs. You can see these guys, right? And we understand what it looks like. So it doesn't actually require the pads or the games for us to know what it looks like. And if you see what it looks like, you know how that may challenge your livelihood. What this guy's doing, I think that Sammy Watkins would not have made this team if the exact same scenario that we signed him on in 22, if he was signed on in 23 and we had this draft, he doesn't make this team. There's no way they're going to pay him. I mean, that $500,000 or whatever, I think it was $400,000 or $500,000 signing bonus. Thank you for your time, and that would have been
it. Right. Yeah, no doubt, no question about it. One other thing I wanted to touch on is I noticed through your Twitter account that your breakdown of Edgerrin Cooper is up on your channel. Look at this. You got the Hitman YouTube channel coming at you. I'll link to the channel in the description of this video, but how are you liking content creation? I mean, it's so funny to me to think about when you were in the NFL, the coverage of the league was certainly robust, but still very different than it is now. And the explosion of content around just not football, but fantasy and betting and all this stuff. How are you finding it? Is it obviously you're into it and you want to be doing it? And it's great to have you here chatting every week, but that it can be overwhelming. It can be a grind at times. I've, the history of Cheesehead TV is littered with people who, oh, we're gung ho about like doing content, and then started doing it for a little bit, and they were like, oh wait, this is actually kind of like a lot. It's a lot, and then they're done. But man, you seem to have really embraced it and are really kind of diving in.
The interesting thing about it is right now, early in this process, it's just bringing together, I should say, a lot of skills and talents that I've acquired over the years. Like all of the highlight tapes and a lot of the content. I'm an artist, by the way, also. So a lot of the digital things, highlights, all that stuff that my children have had released, that's me. Like I'm the one who I made all that stuff.
Right.
So it's bringing together some different aspects of me. I will tell you that I enjoy the football stuff more. And I do know that as we grow the brand, and I'm not going to use when we get to where we need to be, that's something I'm going to hand off because that's not the fun part of it. It is a grind. I mean, editing and all that's not the part that I want to be doing, but I have to do it. And it's part of excellence in anything. It's as a football player, there's a grinding part that people don't even see, which is what kind of gets me upset listening to couch potatoes yell at professional athletes. It's like, dude, the level of work this guy has done to get to where he is.
To be on the television that you're watching on your couch. Exactly.
Right? You wouldn't even be able to last a day in his life of training, the training part. But so the grind, to me, is what I have to do to get to where I want to be. So the most enjoyable part of it is this right here. Being able to share and talk and break down. And I think having been a coach, and I was actually interested during the time where I realized that coaching was not going to be conducive to the type of parent I wanted to be. I realized that maybe I would look at the scouting part. So I did do a little bit of that. I never got into the role itself. I just did, I guess, made some inquiries and Ted Thompson actually is the one who brought me up to Seattle.
Oh, wow.
And so did some days with Ted. Man, you want to talk about a guy who can break it down. And Ted is detailed. I mean, Ted is so detailed to the degree. And I'm a Mensa scholar. So I actually love grammar and everything. Man, if you spell the word wrong, Ted is marking that on your analysis of the player. And I'm like, dang, Ted. I was like, okay, that's what's up. But so to me, man, I realized that the melding of all of those things that I have been able to experience and the things that I enjoy, I realize where I want to get to in it in terms of almost, I'll say just living out the rest of my passion. And that is, I'm going to do this, whether it becomes something big or not. Hey, look, I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep doing this. This has been awesome.
I love it. I love it, man. That's exactly kind of the attitude Corey and I had when we started Cheesehead TV, and that was way before there was all this other kind of social media and content creation, blah, blah, blah. We just wanted to talk ball, and we figured there were probably other Packers fans that wanted to talk with us. So I love talking to you every week. And like I said, your Edgerrin Cooper breakdown link is in the description of this video. People should check it out. Tazim, thanks so much, man. I'll talk to you next week, and we'll be on the precipice of the draft. I can't wait.
Hey, appreciate it. We're getting there. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack.